And there is an array of traditions and practices used to establish communication or exchanges with him. It is said that if you need a devil for anything, you must collect 9 sticks that you find spinning on a body of water and, whilst naked, take them to a crossroad at midnight. There, make a fire with them, and the devil will appear. And when he does, offer him 2 eggs. If he accepts them, he will do anything you ask. And after he fulfills your wish, you must leave the location, and when you do, you will hear screaming, laughing, chanting, drumming, even gunshots, but you must not look back, because if you do, the devil will turn you to shreds. But the devil will not dare as much against old witches or hags. It is said that the only creature the devil fears is the hag, which is a term commonly used for a healing witch, wise woman, or sorceress in her old age. As opposed to Western interpretations of witches who are enslaved by the devil in some way, the hag in Romanian folklore has mythical qualities, and legends place her emergence in time immemorial. As one legend goes, once upon a time, when God was walking with Saint Peter on earth, he saw the devil arguing with an old woman. He immediately sent Peter to separate them and make peace, and he did as God instructed, but as soon as he left the two alone, they started arguing again. Once more, God sent him to separate them. And so Peter got angry and beheaded them both. As if he had done nothing wrong, he then returned to God, who asked how he separated them. And Peter told him that he cut off their heads, to which God demanded that he go back and restore them. Peter went and put the devil's head on the old woman's, and the old woman's, the devil's, because he could not tell the difference.
Otherwise. Because a person that has not ignited their soul spark, the gates of true intelligence, can't even gauge it. Like I've said, the moon gate to the sun gate is perception to process.
That's right.
You can't even process the gauge of your perception because your soul spark is eclipsed. People's gauge of perception is confused, and it's confused on purpose. Wow. Right out of the goddamn fucking womb gate from the time you're a fucking infant. This is what people do not understand, let alone know the difference, to just be able to observe it. And with the accumulation of all the information, a fucking tidal wave of even greater fucking confusion that's corralling everyone into the idea that they're breaking the fucking chains, but they're just throwing more chains the fuck on.
Mm.
And they're becoming more confused. They're becoming more fucking retarded, assuming otherwise. Also in context to a false virtue.
False virtue is definitely the case. I was stuck in that for a long time. You could just say all the bullshit, love and light, there is no evil. All the moral relativism is horrific. The greatest trick is they tricked us that the devil doesn't exist.
And devil, again, is lived. These people aren't living. They're conditioned. All you got to do is step out into your local fucking area.
His name is synonymous with blues. His music made him one of the most iconic figures in his genre. He is cemented as a legend. And yet, very little is known about Robert Johnson. 29 songs, 2 verified photographs, and hundreds of unanswered questions. Johnson's life, his story, and his artistry is wrapped in mystery to this day, but his music resonates with millions. However, Johnson wasn't always a brilliant musician. In fact, he was considered to be relatively untalented, even up until his early 20s. Allegedly, he improved rapidly on the guitar. So much so that a legend was born that Johnson sold his soul to the devil so that he could become a master of the guitar. Johnson passed away under mysterious circumstances at 27 years old, giving birth to the infamous 27 Club and adding yet another question mark onto his already confusing story. It was around this time that legendary blues icon Son House moved to a town that was near where Robert lived. All of a sudden, a lost and impressionable Robert Johnson was listening to one of the greatest blues artists of his generation perform live every week at the local juke joint. At this point, Robert had some musical ability, but it was mainly at the previously mentioned harmonica, so he wasn't considered talented enough to perform at these establishments, but during the breaks, Johnson would ask if he could play their guitars. In one of the most famous interviews ever given about Robert Johnson, Son House states that he was terrible and that he was often asked to stop playing.
He'd follow me and Willie around on Saturday night, Willie Brown. And every time we stopped for rest and sit there, little guitar over in the corner or something and go out to catch air, get the guitar and be trying to play it and be just noising the people, And the folks would come out and say, why don't some of y'all go in there and meet that boy, get that thing down, he's running us crazy.
Johnson may have been in the correct environment to observe the music he wanted to play, but because of his lack of resources and the ridicule he was subjected to when he attempted to perform, he was in the wrong environment to learn. This may have been the reason he left. He did remarry in 1931, but that didn't stop him from traveling around the South for about a year. This is a confusing space of time that is responsible for many of the myths revolving around Johnson. Some people speculated that he left to try and find his biological father, while others believed that he was exclusively focusing on improving his craft. But the other theory, and strangely the most popular one, is that Robert Johnson made a deal with the devil. The story goes that Robert Johnson went to a local crossroads with his guitar before midnight. He started playing his songs, and at midnight, the devil appeared. The devil took the guitar and tuned it, played a song, and gave it back to Johnson. This was the transaction, the turning point for Johnson as a musician. He had given up his soul to the devil himself and was a master of guitar. But with this, his soul was doomed to hell and an untimely demise was in his future. The reason people believe that this is what happened is because of a man named Liddell Johnson, who in 1971 said that this was the way to sell your soul and that his brother Tommy had actually done this. There was no relation between Tommy and Robert, but that didn't stop people from taking this tale and attaching it to Robert's name. At least that's how the story goes. It's obviously a far-fetched tale, but it shows us how impressive and quick Johnson's improvement must have been. The only way the public were able to justify his talents was with a story that was this insane, which in itself tells us why Robert Johnson was so good. One thing is almost certain. Between the years of 1930 and 1932, something happened that made Johnson go from being considered embarrassingly bad to one of the greatest guitarists of all time. When he finally returned to play for Son House, nobody was telling him to stop. He was so good, when he finished, all our mouths were standing open. Johnson took his new talents and began traveling with fellow artist Johnny Shines, where he improved his craft even further, but he still hadn't recorded anything and his talents were being wasted. It was the mid-1930s and his second wife had passed away. Johnson was determined to record and make a name for himself. He went into a man named H.C. Spears' store, who worked for the ARC record label. Finally, in November of 1936, Johnson was in a studio recording the first of his almost 30 songs. He would continuously return to record until the summer of 1937. He made okay money doing this and had amassed a small but loyal fan base, but Johnson wasn't a household name by any means. His music had some dark undertones. Songs like Me and the Devil Blues, If I Had Possession Over Judgment Day, Hellhound on My Trail, and of course, Crossroad Blues. Dark themes like hell, the devil, and death were prominent in his music, and this did nothing but add fuel to his already dark image. But this was par for the course for blues. These weren't new thematic explorations, they were cemented attributes of the genre, but people emphasized Johnson's dark lyrics to add to the narrative, even though there were hundreds of similar acts doing the same thing. Regardless, the recordings were done, and unfortunately, that would be Johnson's entire discography, because a year later, he would die.
It's known as the 27 Club. It consists of notable figures in the entertainment world who all died tragically young, at the age of 27. The idea of a 27 Club originated with musicians in the 70s like Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix, but has since come to encompass celebrities from all walks of life, including actors, artists, sports figures, etc. And while there is no statistical evidence to support the notion that stars die at a greater rate at age 27 than any other age, the idea has seeped its way into the public consciousness, reflected in literature, art, and music.
They're forever 27. Jimmy Janice, Brian Jones. I'm hoping not to join the 27 club. All of the legends, I am 27. Like a 27 club headshot, we don't wanna grow up.
I'll be dead at 27.
So what we must do is learn to make the unconscious conscious collectively. An example of an unconscious operation, which is how the expression of evil takes place, is the unconscious beings, the unconscious, they actually detest us as the conscious. And they do this unconsciously. Because what we do, we stir their unconscious and we threaten to bring forth what is resting deep within their unconscious, which is the things that they do not want to face. And they see that, within us as the conscious. So as a conscious being, in this matrix simulation, right, if you want to call it that, right, in this construct, right, you will feel more than the unconscious, because you are here to play the game, because you are here to experience what it is like to be fallen. You are here to experience what you are not. So you will go through scenarios, and you will have scenarios where you've got family and all kinds of different things where they are testing you in ways that almost as though, in some ways, like they don't like you. You cannot resonate with them, can you? In many ways. But you are here to experience that, because the word Diablo in ancient Egypt, right, was an angel that tested, an angel that used to test. Now, this video series, God is the Devil, since I've been doing this series, right, a lot has come forth. It happens all the time anyway, which is if you want to cut in alignment with this truth, with the truth that I put out here. And the reason for that is because there is only one truth. But what tends to happen is we like to say, oh, this is your truth, or this is this person's truth. And then we fall back into the areas of ignorance, moral relativism. And that is born through the Luciferian impulse, through the Luciferian influence as an extremity of that, right? Now, these are workings of the dielectric, the magneto-dielectric field, right? Which they are. And today, we are going to go more in depth and show you that is the workings of how this field, how it works, right? In actual fact, we were speaking about Mithra. Now, they used to have a Mithraic festival, and they did it. It was Myrrh, they called it, right? Myrrh, right? And it was done in October. And October is the 8th, right? So that leads me onto this, right? So in this place here, the best way, the reason I'm able to stand here today and speak in this way is not because I am saying things in theory, online, writing away, saying things in theory, because I'm able to do it in the physical, in the practical, right? And in the old world, in the mystery cults, etc., things would have been seen as, where is that happening? Are you doing that, right? Is that something that you have to you have to be doing it in the practical, not in theory, in practice, right? Because when it is done in action, now we can initiate magic, but we can't initiate it just by doing it in theory. yes, everything is born in mind, but then mind is then used to create, to manifest in physicality, yeah, intangible in the physical. Now, this reality that we are experiencing right now, yeah, is born about. It's like people like to talk about dualism. I had this thing with this guy online. I was trying to explain to him. But it'd be better for me to explain to him in see this communication rather than this communication, because this communication is not real. So when people are talking like this in this communication, etc., you are not able to get the full flow of what's actually really being said, right? Or the full flow of where someone is actually, what they are actually really telling you, or what they actually really do know, right? And because of that, it puts us in the area of fallacy. So we are following people. Like, there are some people online. Now, it's not anyone that's on that I speak to, I know, right? And they have people following them. And when I go onto there, and when you go on their Facebook, right, the people that are following them, they are just like you. You see other people. They have these celebrity people, where people are conditioned to follow like this. Look, they want to stand and take a picture with someone and go, look at me with it. Yet they're constantly giving their power away to other people that are also just students. They're just learning, just like that individual is learning, right? And they are then boosting this individual, right? And they are creating this cycle of total and utter fallacy. That's what's happening, right? Yeah. And it's not based in real truth, because in reality, if we were to actually physically meet up in real person, the level of discipline and everything else, and the loving intention and everything else that goes towards it, now that would come into play. What are you really all about? Authenticity. What are you really all about? Individuation is key. So false teachings, Luciferic false teachings, lead to escapism, which take us back to ignorance. And this is what, so when we are in this reality now, which I'm going to show right now, there are two forces, right? There are these forces, yeah. These two, right? Look at these two forces here, right? These two forces that I'm holding in my hand right now manifest everything that we are seeing here right now. And they come from one force. One of them, yeah, is a dark black light which pulls in, right? And it does that, and because it also does that, it also allows for ugliness and secrecy, and it also allows for ignorance, and it allows for darkness. There's a dark abyss when it is uncontrolled, right? And the other one here, this emits, right? And then they dance. So, like you can see, this one here, this is nano coated, this is nanotech. Look, right here, it should be, it's black, look, see, it's black. Before it has the fields on it, because what we're doing, which we'll go into anyway, because people, you're going to need to know about this, because this helps to grow. Now, so we capture CO2 with this, right? It means that we can grow fruits at a ridiculous level. We're going to look at this today. I'm going to show you today how magnetism, how the different polarities of magnetism affect you. They affect everything that works in this all bioorganisms, right? In different ways, right? But these two create. Without these two, you cannot create. So when we look at something like dualism, we cannot say, oh, there is no dual this, and there is no dual that, and there is no right and wrong, and there is no. We used to talk about this years ago, right? But things have advanced on from there, because I tell you why. We are not here to assume and think that we know it all, just because we have learnt some truth. Because if that was the case, then we would be gone by now. But we're not. We're still here, and we are not going anywhere. And I've been saying this for years, that we're not going anywhere, right? Because it doesn't work like that. Because you are here to experience what you are not. So, like I was explaining earlier, yeah, these scenarios where you might have family members and they don't even like you, because you operate on a vibrational frequency that makes them feel sick. Yep, right. And that is because you are supposed to experience that contrast. Yeah. So this is how we learn. So when one embarks upon ejaculation, riding the goat riding season, which is a part of the Baphomet here, which is the union of opposites, which is the 8, right? And the 8 also operates in the same octave as the 2. The 8 and the 2 operate on the same octave because we have a 2 here. So a zygote cell, which is what you were when you came here through a zygote cell, is this 8 here, right? But these 2 forces here, the negative, the nano coated here, this is the negative. What it does is it repels, and the magnetic fields that are drawn from this, we create a rip and tear in the ether, and then we match the frequency of the fields that we're looking for, whichever fields, in this case it's zinc, within the atmosphere, as the gas is, and then the dielectric field then, yeah, this one here, pulls those, they accelerate towards this, and into the water, and then what happens is, this field, this one then releases them, because this one here is the positive force that releases that, right? So that's how these work. So without these 2, we cannot manifest the physical reality as we experience in it today. So we cannot just bypass, excuse me, I call it the Luciferian flytrap. We cannot just bypass and just run, because we get a little bit of knowledge, right, about things, and then we immediately go running all the way down there. And it's like, hang on, you need to come back here, because you still got all of the bits in between. You've still got to master and learn all of the bits in between. So this is why I'm saying that when we look at something like dualism, say, oh, duality, I'm beyond duality, you're not. Dualism is born through man. When we have a man and a woman, dualism is present. Done. Before there was man and woman, there was a hermaphrodite androgynous being. Seriously, right? If you didn't know, right? And there was a split that took place, and then once that took place, then all the dramas happened. When a man and a woman come together, in actual fact, there are now four polarities that come together, because within each man and woman has the opposite man and woman effect. So within every man is a woman, within every woman there is a man, and within each of those there is also a male. There is also then the stemming from within the psyche again, the man and the woman, the dark night and the bride within the psyche, yeah, of those, which makes it so hard again when they come together. And then they also pull and repel and dance by doing so as well. And then so the nature of the dualism that we are experiencing is not something that we can just easily try and say, oh, I'm beyond this, because you cannot be beyond it, because you are here dancing amongst it. You can't go to a party and the people are all dancing and you're in there dancing with them and say that you are beyond dancing with them, because you are in the party dancing with them. Right? So this is it, right? So we have to learn to harmonize that. But when we do that, the fields that come from this, they operate on a mono level. But even though they do that, they are still operating in a dualistic expression as well within the physical. So we have dielectric and magnetism, right? So there you go, black and white, right? This is it, right? You have to learn to master the game. So this is why you cannot afford to ignore evil, because you cannot live here without being evil. You were evil at some point when you're here. But the issue that we have here is that we still don't know what the definition of evil actually is. We don't know what that is fully, because it operates from this subtle layer, and we have not embarked upon fully focusing upon the subtle expression and layer of how this reality works. So, for example, the melons. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. I'm growing these melons right now. We're gonna show how to do with this plasma. The reason is when the CO2 fields, they grow things. They grow it at a ridiculous rate. But when the melon, when it germinates and it comes through the soil, it has to embark upon a fight to even get through. Yeah, because the Earth Diver, which is the creation myth that we've been speaking about, which we're going to talk about now, because this Olympic ceremony that they had, right? This thing, right? And that's why it's at the front cover of this video, the apple. I'm not going to be able to play because we were looking at this Olympic ceremony stuff, even in the last couple of videos I was doing previously, right? Because they are telling you the script. They are telling you the script. Also, before we move forward, we know the people that watch this channel. They call it a channel, right? I like to say you knew that this was going to happen because I said it. We said it was going to happen on this channel. We said that there will be a Mad Max scenario in the UK, and you will need to leave those kind of cities. And now you know that that's real. And what we were ignoring is evil, because the level of violence is a phenomena that was already divulged here. There was the phenomena of the women killing the children in England, right? And this phenomena of the violence phenomena, which is coming from the expression of this Ahrimanic influence and force, and almost this incarnation of this Ahrimanic entity. Yeah. And we're going to look at it. We're going to look at it now, because you cannot. Just what I'm telling you, talking about this dualism thing today, right? The spirits, we have benevolent forces, benevolent spirits here, right? And we also have the malefic, right? The dark ones, right? That's what happens. So the beings that are here, right? Because we have been ignoring the nature of how the reality works, they are operating in this unconscious fashion. Yeah, and because they are operating in this unconscious fashion, they are expressing, they are initiating acts of evil, subtle evil. So many examples of subtle evil that I can't even remember them to say them, because there's just that many of them that take place, right? When you think that somehow I am different to who I am, that is evil. Yeah, these things. When you think that you should go to, when you think that you should go to work or something, right? Knowing that it's causing you harm, that is an act of evil. You cannot live here without expressing this expression of evil, right? Yeah. When you blindly follow another individual and hide behind them like they know what they're talking about, when really they probably don't even know what they're talking about to an extent, because a lot of unfortunately a lot of the stuff that we see is not a reflective of the reality that we are actually experiencing. It is entertainment. It is entertainment, and I'm going to show you why it's entertainment, because I'm going to read this chapter now from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, right? And we're going to see, right? We're going to see. So it says, right? We'll read this from this magic scripture here, magic book, because it's a magic. This is a book of magic, right? So it says, "Hail, hail, ye seven beings who make decrees, who support the scales on the night of the judgment of the Uchat, who decapitates and cuts off heads, who hacks necks in pieces, who take possessions of hearts by violence, and rend the places where hearts are fixed, who make slaughtering in the lake of fire," because you have the fire of temptation, the Luciferian fire of temptation, which is something I've been covering for years and speaking about, which is the thing that the priests use. I'm going to put it in a minute. We'll look at it, because the guy Ammon Hillman, came and gave credence to my work, right? Because he's got his own script, yeah. And the other Ken Wheeler, we're going to look at as a few people that I'm going to put them on I'm going to show you, because the reason is there is one truth. And I'm going to show these people are saying the same thing as me. And they are, these are geniuses in their field. But they don't speak like the people that people follow on Facebook. They don't speak like that. They don't talk like that. They don't deny evil. They don't deny ignorance in those ways. They don't speak in the same way. And because of that, we have to do this with this talk like this, because we have to really unify in our thought and how we are operating, because what we are seeing out there is not reflective of the truth we're experiencing. So I shall continue. Fire, slaughtering in the lake of fire. I know you, and I know your names. Therefore know ye me, even as I know your names. I come forth to you, therefore come ye forth to me. For ye live in me, and I would live in you. Make ye me to be vigorous by means of that which is in your hands. That is to say, by the rod of power, which is in your hands. The rod of power, the staff, right? Scepter. Decree ye for my life by your speech year by year. Give me multitudes of years over and above my years of life, and multitudes of months over and above my months of life, and multitudes of days of days over and above my days of life. My multitudes of nights over and above my nights of life. And grant that I may come forth and shine upon my statue. Shine upon my statue, which would be your physical form, the body, right? And me air from my nose, and let my eyes have the power to see amongst those divine beings who dwell in the horizon on the day when evil doing and wrong are justly assessed. Now, before I forget, the video that I played at the beginning, the crone, the devil and the crone looks at the devil and she says, you look like me. And the devil looks at the crone and says, you look like me, right? The crone and the devil is the same thing. Why is that? Because you see, material matter, it's aged, it's old. It's like it's old because it ages. And what it does is it almost lusts after the light of the young, and it looks to almost extinguish it. I could show you endless examples, right, of a crone. Like the old women, like when they see the child, they're scared of child. Old people. It's a crone archetype operative in the psyche. Yeah. And it's sort of like they're like got a Saturnian kind of mind, right? And this is how we know that what you perceive as the devil, yeah, is present with here, because if you can't have God without the devil, and this is what many didn't know, because God is the devil. So when we are here, we are not. We have almost perceived that we are the Luciferian polarity makes us perceive that we are above this place. And what we don't realize is we have to gain the courage and the strength to anchor ourselves here in matter to overcome. So when it was talking about in here, when you're just talking about these seven, they are the seven hosts, the archons, Sun, Moon, Saturn, those planetary bodies. That's what he's talking about. And look what he was saying. He was talking about who hacks necks to pieces, who take possessions of hearts by violence. Yeah, right. We have to be able to overcome, because all of these forces, they come from. So you have Zervan. This is coming from the Magi, the original magicians, which is the word where the word mirror, the moving mirror comes from, right? The Magi, yeah. This is where it's come from them, and then it's come from the gods given to them, right? Before that, so this knocks no religion, because all religion was based off the back of it, right? So we know it, yeah. So the one force, like the leontocephaline. I put him on the screen now. The lion with the face, and he's got the serpent coiled up 7 times around his body, right? Which you're going to see another creation myth in a minute, where that same theme is also within there as well. And it's also within there when the woman split from the man, and the evil entity came and slept with it, Adonai, which is the original occult version of what happened with Genesis, right? So, you know, these things are, it's not like what we think it is. So, like I was saying, the one, yeah, which is Zervan. So the creator of this almost creates this. You are you have what we call individuation. Any being that operates outside of this physical sphere, right, knows that you have an individuated state that is beyond the physical layer, right? But I have seen some beings who, like, I don't know if I don't know, but we go on the astral daily, constantly. It's normal, right? So we know that you're an individuated being. So I've seen what it looks like, what myself looks like outside of this, when you can literally go up to it, and it's a big, like 40, 50 foot, it would almost appear, bright white light being, right? As a being, yeah, right? Not as the being, as a being that can come from here to the pleroma and back, right? And we operate around the crown of our mother's head. I'm a human who calls it the muse, which is, we call it with the mother, the great mother. And she's the reason why I'm standing here today, like this, doing this, when I could be doing other things, right? Because I have to do this work for her, yeah. Because she's the goddess of the sun, goddess of the heavens, and the goddess of the earth, right? So, and because outside of here, we're working with something totally different. But the work that gets done here, we are, like when I leave here, the work gets done here gonna be like this. Be like, great, yeah, smashed it, did a great job down there. That's it. Not for what was happened here, yeah, but on the outside of this, because this is just a construct. It's not actually the real thing, right? So moving forward. So then that leads me to look at this this board, because when you have 8, you also have 8. We did cover this years ago. Hey, when I do these videos, there was something in my head a minute ago. It went. Hopefully, it will come back. And you have this what is perceived to us as an 8 here, but it's a figure of 8, an hourglass figure, which is born of the field, which manifests the reality that we're experiencing. And these 2 fields almost separate, and they've even done this, and some of what we're going to read through, it states in there that there was research done by the evil company, right? I won't even say the name in here, you know, the guys that create all this stuff with this heliocentric stuff. But anyway, they have already proven, they know, they've been able to prove that, they know that this field, it's a two pole, there's almost like 2 fields, yeah. The magnetic field itself is a split into fields, like 2 donuts, 2 separate, right? Which I'll put up there on the screen, right? But we have the 8. So to have an 8, the root word of 8 is going to give you 8, which will give you bright, yeah, which will give you light, but it will also give you might, right? But it will also then give you right. But then at the same time, it will also give you fight. Because God, as we've also already discovered on this channel, is 8, which is dog. But God is also going to give you generator, generation, generator, and destroyer. Right? Generator and destroyer. Right. So, and the what we have here is the 9 and the 4, which they dance and interchange as 94, which will invariably give you a high degree of purple. spirit and matter, right? Which is gold, because we know. Remember, that gold. So this is copper fields, right? We know that gold is purple. The gases of gold are purple, right? So we know that as a fact, right? So the actual field itself, this figure of 8 field, contains within it the two forces that are constantly trying to pull us away from that center. Yeah. So I was saying, as the materialist is generally short-fused, short-tempered, right, and easily frustrated in comparison to the spiritualist, who's operates on the opposite side of the field. So you will have known, you tidy your bedroom's a mess, you don't have this, and all that sort of stuff. Because they are attached to the material, it means that they are actually operating on a frequency that means that they are being diminished much quicker. That's why they get more stressed out by that, because they are materialist is temporal, right? So this is, and that's why, again, this bottom portion of the field, the bottom portion of the field here is the positive, right? Which is going to give the 9 drop down here, which is the 9th sphere down here, right? Yeah. Now that positive expression of the spirit, again, when it is in excess, and we'll put it on actual fact, put it on because Ken Wheeler was talking about it the other day. Put it on here, right? I think he discovered it. That's why I'm going to give him his dues on that, right? The excess, the 666 goes back to the word excess. Yeah, in Greek, but then it translates to excess, right? Which is obviously 666, which we've all covered a long time. 666, number of man, yeah, which is excess. So what we have to know here is the height of the evil that is stemming from within man, right? And even though we may think, oh well, I'm above all that now, and I don't need to look at all that, it's going to make you see it, and it's going to make you experience it. It's going to make you look upon it. So this is why we have to do the work. So that's going to then lead me on to playing the first video. So I'll put that on right now.
I mean, people think, it's like 666 is reference to the beast. It's actually a reference to the number of man. Actually, certain numbers in ancient Greek and also too in Aramaic and same in English are words. You actually put in a number, and if you say that number, you're saying a word. Like, say, for example, the English number 1022. If I said 1022, oh, you're saying a number. So I am, but just say that whole thing together meant something, like 1022, just an arbitrary number. 666 in ancient Greek is exisius. In Latin, it is nearly the same, exisius. And in English, it's nearly the exact same word, excess. Every form of ancient metaphysics says the same thing. Excess is evil, evil is excess. It doesn't actually say the number of evil, it says exisius. 666 talents of gold by, I forget which guy, he had 660, but he actually embraced materialism, therefore he was attached to excess, and excess, of course, led him into the path of hell. And religious so-called scholars and the people attached to the Catholic Church and other churches, they all interpret this as, the number for evil. I mean, it's just one example in Revelation. I can't believe I'm the one that discovered that. There's no mention of it anywhere else, but I found thousands of such occurrences in the Nikayas, the Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, Kudaka Nikaya. These ancient Pali passages that have been purposely mistranslated.
Folklore. The primary indigenous people of the region are the Tupi and Guarani tribes, who still speak the pre-colonial Guarani language, which is what distinguishes them from the related Tupi. Early Guarani villages often consisted of communal houses for 10 to 15 families, and it is estimated that they collectively numbered at around 400,000 when they were first encountered by Europeans. Of course, the tribes were promptly converted to Christianity starting in the 1500s, but many of their oral myths survived and were passed down in the Guarani language, which is still taught today in schools, as is their creation mythology. Tupa, the supreme god, whose residence is the sun, and Arasi, the mother of the sky, who lives on the moon, met through a constellation of stars after years of looking for each other and finally got married. The morning after their wedding, they descended onto Earth on a hill and began creating the oceans, rivers, forests, and stars, and all living things. To create the first human beings, Tupa made statues from a paste using a mixture of clay, blood from the short-tailed nighthawk, and leaves of different types of plants, and a centipede. He left the statues to dry in the sun, and then filled them with life, calling the woman Sipavi and the man Rupavi, meaning mother and father of the people. Tupa and Arasi then gave the humans instructions to live peacefully, to procreate, and to live in love. To guide the people down the path of good, Tupa created the spirit of good, Anga Tupari, and Tau to lead them down the path of evil. With this done, Tupa and Arasi ascended back up into the heavens. The first man and woman, Rupavi and Sipavi, had 3 sons and an unknown number of daughters. The second son was called Marongatu, a generous and benevolent leader of his people and father of Karena. She was captured and raped by the spirit of evil, Tau, and gave birth to 7 children, becoming the mother of the 7 legendary monsters of the Guarani myth. I will be covering 2 of these 7 offspring in some detail, Jasi Jateri and Kurupi, which I felt are the most interesting and seem to be the most prominent to the Guarani. The Guarani practiced a form of animistic pantheism, much of which has survived in the form of folklore and numerous myths which are passed down orally by word of mouth, but were compiled and published by a university in Argentina in 1870. The most prominent legend was to do with Pampero, which are goblin or elf-like entities that allegedly dwell in the forests. It's attempted to shift the sin of adultery and polygamy away from the Guarani men onto the Guarani women in their process of converting the tribes. They did so because the Guarani men, as influential patriarchs within the missions, would revolt against the Jesuits and flee in response to Jesuit indoctrination that denounced their practice of polygamy and spiritual sexuality. The Guarani term for priest, abare, meant a man without sex, referring to their celibacy. The Guarani marveled at this behavior and did not find it admirable, since among them it was a matter of honor and prestige to have numerous wives and serving women sexually. The Jesuits were undoubtedly uncomfortable with Guarani sexuality, as well as their cannibalistic tendencies during rituals. Montoya also viewed the use of yerba mate, which mimicked amphetamine, as demonic. He claimed that he had looked carefully into the origins of its use and learned that this herb's infusion was not consumed except by a, quote, great witch man or sorcerer who had communicated with the devil, who showed it to him, saying that whenever the sorcerer wished to consult him, he should drink from that herb, end quote. Montoya also recognized some of the benefits of yerba mate, how, when it was used, the Indians could row a raft all day without any sustenance, and it made their senses alert. The Guarani also smoked tobacco during ritual, as well as consumed ayahuasca, a hallucinogenic brew which the shamans claimed helped them to attain altered perceptions of reality, high consciousness and facilitated communication with higher intelligences, possibly from other dimensions.
Yeah, so you see, that was the world's greatest anthropologist, if you didn't know, Robert Sefer. Many of his work over the time has been in alignment with what I'm saying for absolute donkeys. I'll say something, I'll do so, and the next thing he's done it, or vice versa, whatever it may be. Same with some other people, because there is but one truth. There's only one truth. This is why, when I always see people and they go around to other people and they bow at their feet and go, "Oh wow, you give us all the," we don't own it. We're sharing it. We're giving you our own. Each one is giving you the script that they have come down here to reveal to each individual, right? But because the psychological work wasn't done, the work on the psyche, the true inner work hasn't been done first, we sometimes champion the wrong individuals when they have still not embarked upon that core work. So they are still not, in some cases, not operating from that true centered place of true or authentic intent of working from the essence of pure love, right? So, and when that happens, like I was saying earlier, I'm not saying about anyone in particular at all, but what I'm saying is when that happens, a fallacy is then created where you are giving your power away to someone who may even be a piece of shit when they're at home, right? Yeah, but I see these things because when you work upon the psyche and you work upon the self properly with the psyche, with the shadow and everything else, you are able to see these things much clearer. Like when what people do is this: you tell them something, and they'll immediately mirror it and go, "Oh no, that's you doing it," blah blah blah, right? And when as soon as they do that, I know that they're not doing that work. They're doing that work because other videos that I'm going to be doing afterwards, I'm going to do a whole series about shadow work. So I'll give you an example. I love to say I got it wrong. Great, it's food and drink for me. Food and drink to say yes, we have this wrong. Or people will go, oh, or someone say, "Oh, you're talking about yourself," right? They say that because they're trying to deflect. They're trying to deflect, right, what's being said by that individual. This is how people manipulate, and they're still operating from angles of evil and don't even know they're even doing it, right? And that happens when we are not fully focused upon introspection, yeah, upon the deep defects and faults within the self. So the video that was just playing, right? So in there, it tells you creation myths are great because they are coming from the psyche of the beings that were here before us. We don't know. See, what is sacred to us, what is profane to us now, would have been sacred way gone, right? So you see how I know that is this. Those beings there are telling you, right? They've seen the gods with the blonde bears, the blue eyes, right? They were telling you, yeah, that they went to devil. Remember I was telling you about this video before? I told you about those angels with those witches, and they called upon the devil, and a portal opened, and they took the guy with them. So they was in interactions with the devil, right? And that stuff they were taking, like amphetamine, right? And it was giving them this positive charge of excess for them to be able to do the work that they needed to get done on a supernatural level. But it was said, right, in the creation myth, as it always is, that there was an evil, there was a good entity, right, and there's an evil entity, right, and the evil entity, the good and evil, and the evil entity interfered with the beings that were here. And this is why I keep going on about we have to be able to look and gaze into the face of evil to fully reckon, because the beings that are walking around here, yeah, have this because of consequentialism. Consequences. I noticed that we don't realize that we have to bear the consequences for the collective's actions. The things that they do, we have to bear the consequences of those things, right? So you've seen now, as he was explaining, the same as the earth diver, yeah. He comes in, they come in, yeah. That what we perceive as the evil force actually is playing a part in manifesting the physical reality that we are experiencing, right? So then I'll play this part of the Ammon Hillman. Now this is the language expert who's now come in and he's now said, look, this is these people have been lying to you, these translators, because they're evil. That's an act of evil, by the way, because they're lying when they know that the text says that Jesus is a paedophile. Jesus was a paedophile. What does that do? If Jesus is a paedophile and you've come all this way, you've done all this truth, you said Christ, Jesus was the Son, you said that you got the 12 apostles. I got a picture now, I'm going to show it, right? Jesus the 13th, right? You've done all this, yeah, and you said all this stuff about Jesus, and you said all that with the 12 constellations and Jesus and everything, right? Because he's not a literal man, but yeah, and he did all these great things, and it's saying, right, it's giving you the impression that there is no evil. Yeah, that's how clever they are. Let's just play him anyway.
Right. There's a medical use for it. So you're saying Galen for medical.
Yes, and not just Galen, right? But it's just referring to a strip of cloth. And this kid, if you go back to our original text, that first one, this kid is wearing it. He's even very specific, and he says, epigumnu, on his place of shame. On his place of shame, he's wearing it, right?
Wow.
Right? Kai, let's keep reading it. Let's keep reading it. Kai kratusin auton. And they kratusin, they took possession of him. They arrested him. They strong-armed him. There, it's talking about Jesus. Typically, they try to say this was the boy. But it doesn't make sense if it's the boy with the next Greek that we have. Hode katalipon ten sindona, gumnos efugen. The one who was naked fled after leaving his bandage. Yeah, right? Why? Because they're not trying to strong-arm the kid, right?
Right.
They're trying to strong-arm Jesus. And that's when Jesus says, so importantly, which is our next text. Check out this next text.
This one?
Yeah. And Jesus answers them, right? And he said to them, did you come out here against me as if I were a lace having your clubs and your weapons? You're gonna take me this way? Yeah, your clubs and your swords, right? What are you doing? It's that famous passage. But everybody remembers that the laistes means robber or the pirate, right? Jesus is saying, I'm a pirate, right? Look there at the very bottom under Roman numeral number 2. Yeah, and you see the Kupridos, the pirate of Cyprus. Oh. And the reference in Lycophron to 1143, where we're talking about abducting young women to be sold to others for things like slavery, sexual gratification. You can sell to a temple. They could have been sold off as priestesses, right? But Jesus says, you're not coming out against me like with all these weapons, like I'm some kind of child trafficker.
So that that's what he's saying when he says I didn't know that. That brings a lot of context to what he's talking about.
Yeah. So now, what about Jesus and children and child trafficking? And is there anything else? If we're just detectives saying this is the evidence we have, and from the Garden of Gethsemane, we have that one piece of evidence. We have that kid's penile wrap. We have the penile wrap of the child. Yeah, that's the only like fragment of history that was left at the scene, right? Otherwise, we know Jesus is saying he's not a pirate and he's got it covered with some stuff that right? That they don't know what it is, right?
We're not
Okay.
like, look, it's not like we're pulling stuff out of outer space. Like the text tells us there's a little boy in with him in the garden as he's being arrested who runs away naked. Like this is not like we're not like going to like some apocryphal text somewhere and like pulling out some random. This is in the text in Mark. And so we're just asking questions like, what's going on here? Is it an initiation? I've heard people say there was a resurrection. You know, they say, oh, you know, he wasn't there. He didn't go there with John and whoever else was there. He just was there in the cemetery and Jesus resurrected him. I've heard that theory, but the text doesn't say that. We're just adding stuff to whatever we want to the text. The text doesn't say that. It only says there's a little boy who ran away naked. So what's going on here?
And the best thing to do, Neil, that's why I love to hang with you, is because it's just those texts that matter. I can come up with a theory for what's going on. It doesn't do me any good if I just treat those texts. And that's what I want to jump. Okay, I didn't want to do this originally, but the last slide, there. Hey, guys, I want to cut to the chase on this one. Look at this. This is, I don't want to talk about the background of this thing whatsoever. People classify it as pseudo-Clement. You can take that and do with it what you want. I'm interested in the language here and what the Greek is saying. So, so hoide mathetai epitimestai aute kai orgistes ho Jesus. Jesus is mad, man, right off the bat. And he came back with her, this woman, to the garden. Where was the Nemeon? Where was the cemetery? Yeah. And right away he heard from the cemetery, right, from this tomb, phone megale, a great voice, and approaching. Yeah, Jesus moved off the stone from the doorway of the tomb, and entering in there, right there, was this Neaniskos. You can see this on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down. Neaniskos. See the Neaniskos?
Yeah, I see it, yeah.
Okay, and there was a Neaniskos there, and what is he doing? He's stretching out his hand and waking him up. Isn't that cool? He's waking him. Wait, do you realize that we heard a voice and we entered a tomb where a kid has to be roused? Where he has to be roused. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Probably smells like opium in here, right? Okay. Right? Honeaniskos. And so the kid does what? He looks up at him and he loves him. Agapes and auton. He loves him. And remember, this is in a text that itself says, hey, Jesus was a hierophant. Wake up, people. Jesus was a hierophant. And what is a hierophant?
Right in the text, yeah.
One who teaches the rites of sacrifice and worship, right? At Rome, it's just the Pontificate.
Herodotus uses it for the initiation at Eleusis.
Yes.
So this is a very specific role. We have another source from Plutarch, says that this is what they call the Pontifex Maximus in Rome, or the Jewish high priest. So this is somebody who's religious, who's doing rites, hierophant.
Specifically, those mystical rites that we call the mystery. So if you go back to that text, here we go. What is he doing? He's with the kid there and he rouses him up. The kid looking at him loves him. And Erxato Parakalin started to ask him that he might be with him.
What?
And coming out from the tomb, Jesus went into the home, the oikia, the estate of the kid. For this kid was wealthy. He was loaded. And after 6 days, Jesus gave him instructions about how to look. And the kid came and wrapped around himself a sindona epigumno. He wrapped his sindon on his nakedness. Yeah. And he remained with him. Kai emena sun autoi te nukta ekemen. He remained with him for the night. Yeah, throughout the night. And now this is the kicker. This is the kicker right at the end. Edidaske gar auton ho Jesus. And Gar, that Gar there is telling you, why did he stay with the kid all night, throughout the night? Because he was teaching him the mysterion.
Oh, the mystery.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole chapter is leading up to. It's this scene in the garden.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it might be the longest chapter in Mark. I could be wrong. It's one of the longest, at least. But it leads up to this, and it's very mysterious. There's something happening here, and I think these Greek words are telling us, like, for example, you know how we define hierophant, teaching the rites, or the sindone, wearing the sindone. So, and I'm thinking in my head, is there a relation to this? And this is another gospel, but like, I know this is like the scholars say, don't compare gospel to gospel. They're two different writers, but like, I can't help it. In John, you have the disciple whom Jesus loved. I wonder if this is Mark's way of telling about who this character is. Some sort of initiate, some sort of apprentice, maybe.
Yeah, and what's the connection with the boy having been assigned to Jesus? Like, you'd buy a slave to do something for a certain amount of time. You know, he's renting the person, right? And a lot of times these little kitty slaves, they're involved in things that aren't just for kids. And you think for yourself, you're sitting there and you think, oh, wait a minute, I'm starting to make me a little bit nauseous. Yeah, let's go back to the actual language, right? Because Jesus has a point where some people get upset at him. It's some of his own followers. And they say, hey, stop treating the children like this. Says he was touching them. And the word there is grabbing, and also hopto. Pull hopto up. Here it is. Hopto.
I got it. Hopto.
Yeah. Look at this, people. Hopto can mean, it's not just touching, like, touching. It's grabbing, right? It's engaging something or attacking something.
Facet, contest in a wrestling. So yeah, that's a specific touch right there.
And if you look at number 5 under Roman numeral number 3, you see that it means to have straight up intercourse.
Oh my God, it can actually be used in that context?
And it is used by Paul in Corinthians that way.
Wow.
Okay, so
my mind is officially blown right now.
For those of you who think koine, Neil, can you take that off for a minute?
Yeah,
so I can make an appeal of vanity.
Yeah, 1 second. It's got to go back down. Okay, go ahead.
For those of you who don't think that, for those of you who think koine, yeah, kick up your stuff, because you're gonna need it. You're gonna need it. He is in a situation where he's doing this to children. And a group of his followers stop the parents from allowing it to take place. And they say, hey, stop doing this. And it says they're upset. And it uses timao, which typically can be used in a kind of a legal sense. It's got just a smidge of something judges say, right? Alice will tell you that it's used by judges. And so it's a funny thing that they get these kids, and Jesus steps up and he says he's angry. And he says, no, you cannot enter into the kingdom unless you are one of these children. Let's look at what he's talking about, because it has for us, it's just like, no, don't think that, right? But let's see what the Greeks were thinking when he talks about his paideia. What are these paideia? People don't realize, right? Little children are following around Jesus. Why? They need the prayer. He's going to engage them, and he's going to enter into a prayer. And we see this in the performance of the mystery. And of course, that's why Jesus is so adamant. You can't get into the kingdom unless you come by this avenue. Right? Now, what is this paideia? What is this child thing in the ancient Greek mind, in the ancient Mediterranean mind that was wrapped up on the Hellenistic side with the Greek? Things are coming from their verbs. I want you just to take a look at this verb. It is the base for child, and it means to dance or play amorously.
Wow.
When you have the word paideia in Greek, it is understood that there is a relationship between the teacher and the teachee. It is understood that there is a relationship between the teacher and the teachee. And it has to do with touching. And it has to do with the maturation of the bud, right? You want to bring that bud to perfection. That's what they looked at as purification, as education, as paideia. That's why they call the horsemen who were hung the teachers of the princes. That's why they call them pederasts. That's a Greek word for that teacher, the pederast. When Jesus is calling for paideia, he is calling for victims of pederasty. And we know that at least his attitude reflects this, because when he gets called short on it, he says, you're going to end up scandalizing me, right? Right. So for those of you who have the little Jesus bless me and whatnot, realize there's a tradition of directly touching children, of molesting children associated with the rites and the mystery. Okay? Neil, you know.
It's not a controversial statement. Any classicist will say, yeah, this is part of the Greek world. This was normalized in the Greek. I'm not saying I think we should bring it back or anything, but I'm just saying that's the reality of the fact. The Greeks were, you know what I'm saying? It's just the reality of it. Actually, in fact, somewhere over here, I have a book. It's titled Puerilites, and it's this scholar put together like tons of texts of ancient Greek that are very, very graphic, sexual, and 9 times out of 10, it's an older male with a prepubescent boy. 9 times out of 10, that's what these texts are portraying.
Is that at least one Christian author reveals them as the act of sodomy. In other words, the Prince of Darkness, the author of the first temptation, while inhabiting the body of an exorcist, forced prepubescent boys to submit to anal intercourse. The devil was said to have done this in a violent manner, but the children were allowed to suffer the temptation forced on them by the possessed exorcist, because this afforded them an opportunity to rebuke the pleasure of the sin and thus obtain salvation. The priests who were present during the application of the fires of temptation encouraged the children to flee the sexual advances of the devil, and they were told that they should not enjoy the experience. The priests helped the children to call upon the name of the Lord, to see past the pain of temptation to the relief of salvation. When the devil was present, applying the sexual temptation, the boys were told to rebuke him in the name of Jesus. They rebuked his acts of violence. They rebuked his offer of carnal pleasure. Helping the children to renounce this forced sexual act allowed them to accept eternal salvation. After the devil was rebuked, he reportedly fled the scene, and the priests witnessed the exorcist's exhausting release. The children were then taken to a sacred bath, where they were baptized, and thus cleansed of any stain. They emerged from the waters of cleansing to a new life. Then they were given white robes to cover their nakedness, a symbol of the purity they gained from renouncing the devil. These robes would have been made of the same material as the bandage that covered the naked boy who was with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane when he was arrested. After this ceremony, the boys were returned to the priests involved in their initiation in order to purge themselves of any violent memories of the fires of temptation. The boys were returned to the priests involved in their initiation in order to purge themselves of any violent memories of the fires of temptation. The priests then repeated their instructions that the details of their initiations were to remain a mystery. Telling others about their experience was a sin. The boys were reminded that hell awaits those who are disobedient. Finally, they were given food. To a Christian priest living in the earliest years of the church, salvation was not a joke. Priests taught that children allowed to go on living as pagans would be sent to hell for eternity. Initiating them into the way would ultimately save their souls from an eternity of pain and suffering. This must be the reason that priests took such drastic measures to save the youth of the world. The pains of the fires of sexual temptation were far less horrific than an eternity in the underworld.
Yeah, so that was what was really going on. So then that makes us know even more now. So we know that the priests, and these priests in actual fact, going all the way back, these rituals, I'll put it in, I'll make sure it's there anyway. You'll see it because it was in there, right? The ritual that they were doing with the fire of temptation, because they're giving you one reality, but they're working with the alchemical nature of things. Yeah, so the fire of temptation, the luciferic force that they are using when they do that with the children, right? When they have the intercourse with the children, and it's also in the Talmud. Is it the Talmud or the Torah? And it's I think it's 44b. I'll put it on the screen where they think it's okay for them to sleep with the children, right? With the kids. It's disgusting, right? At 3 years of age, right? And because of the field force of magnetism that the child is holding on to, they loose that energy from them when they orgasm. They take that, right? And the reason is because all of this is based around sex, right? Which I'm sneak that other video, this other bit in, right? I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just sneak that other bit in there right now, because some people may that still don't realize. A lot of people, like, they do semen retention and stuff, but you don't actually fully realize it's not just you just not ejaculating, because now you're holding on to a force which is stagnating it. You have to then go back to the woman, right, and unify in the way that the gods intended us to do it, because we wouldn't have done it on our own. The gods initiated it because they created the field. When it's split down like this, we had this dual field, and they created this reality like this. And like I was saying, with what they call a zervan split, it didn't split. It gave rise to these two other forces, and didn't really, right? from the timeless to bound in time. So I'm going to read that now. Right, the Magi, right. The derivation of the term magus is derived from Magi, the mirror, right, wherein Brahm, according in Indian mythology, from all eternity beholds himself and all his power and wonders. Hence also our terms Magi, magic, imagination, magic, image, all implying the fixing in form of figure, matter, figure or creature. These words being synonymous of the potencies of the primeval, structureless, living matter. Right. The magus, therefore, is one that makes the operation of the eternal life his study. Right. Gnosis. Gnosis cannot be done by AI. An artificial intelligence cannot deliver any form of gnosis. Gnosis can only be delivered through through operating within the physical practicality by using a higher form of elevated consciousness, yet to conduct study in the physical plane using magic and so on and so forth. It is the only way to come to the true conclusion of what truth actually really is. Yeah, we cannot do it with an artificial intelligence, right? Can't do that. It's not going to work, right? So, antiquity of the Magi, as the ancient priests of Persia were called, did not constitute a doctrine or religion only. They constituted a monarchy. Their power truly was that of kings, and this fact is still commemorated by. Let me just get that right. Still commemorated. This fact is still commemorated by the circumstances. I gotta make sure I get the right bit, because I'm reading it. What I'm doing is I'm reading it off here, and I need to make sure that it's right. Circumstances that the Magi recorded to have been led by the star to the cradle of Jesus, right, are just as frequently called kings as Magi. So you know that these three Magi went to Jesus, right? You know that they went to him and they gave him the myrrh, and they say something called myrrh is in conjunction with Mithra, right? Yeah. And the festival is to take place in October, right? Not a carnival. The carnival is associated with the Satanists because it's carnal, right? So, continue, right? To the cradle of Jesus, and just as frequently called kings as Magi. As sages, they were kings in the sense of Horus. Then it goes on to mention Jove, which is Jupiter, right? It then says, their pontifical reign preceded the ascendancy of Assyria, Media, and Persia. Aristotle asserts it to have been more ancient than the foundation of the kingdom of Egypt. Plato, unable to reckon it by years, compute it to myriads. As at the present day, most writers agree in dating the rise of the reign of the Magi 5,000 years before the Trojan War. Zoroaster, the founder of the order, was Zoroaster, who was not, as some will have it, a contemporary of Darius, but lived nearly 70 centuries before our era. Nor was his home near India, but in Bactriana, which lies more to the east beyond the Caspian Sea, close to the mountains of India, along the great rivers of Oxus and Laxartes, so that the Brahmins or priests of India may be called the descendants of the Magi, right? Where you got the Dravidians and all that, right? So, and you know, it's the Aryans and all that, they came over into that land, right? It says the doctrine of Zoroaster, his doctrine was the most perfect and rational of all those that in ancient times were the objects of initiation, and has more or less survived in any successive philosophies. Traces of it may be found in the ancient Zendavesta, not the book now passed by that name, which is merely a kind of breviary which entered into all the details of nature. It then says, now this is it now, right? Okay. This doctrine is not the creed of the two opposite, but equally powerful principles as have been asserted. For Arimanes, the principle of evil is not equal with Arimanes, which is good, right? Evil is not uncreated and eternal. It is rather transitory and limited in power, right? And Plutarch records an opinion, which anon we shall see confirmed, that Arimanes and his angels shall be annihilated. This is the good news. Shall be annihilated. That dualism is not eternal. It's not eternal, but it is temporal, and you are temporal, and we are living in a temporal. It has a timeline, and it will end around 2040, right? Which constitutes the great drama, right? That dualism is not eternal. Its life is in time, of which it constitutes the grand drama, and in which it is the perennial cause of motion and transformation. It's the perennial cause of motion, right? Magnetism, right? This is true philosophy, and fully in accordance with the fundamental principles of nature, engraved within nature. The supreme being or eternal life is elsewhere called time without limits, which is the aeon, which we're going to look at, because we are in a time. There is a time, a cyclical timeline phenomena that takes place here every 10 years, and this is why it's hard to look at things from the past and try to judge it based upon like what's happening now, because every single 10 years this matrix resets itself. By the way, every deck which is on here, which is every 10, the deck is the 10, right? So it then goes on to say, right, time without limits, for no origin can be assigned to him, enshrined in his glory and possessing properties and attributes incomprehensible by our understanding. To him belongs silent adoration. Creation had a beginning by means of emanation. The first emanation from the eternal was the light, whence issued the king of light, Arimanes, which is the light, Luciferian light, right? By means of speech, Arimanes created the pure world, of which he is the preserver and judge. Arimanes is a holy and celestial being, intelligence and knowledge. Arimanes, which is Luciferic, which is this polarity here, right? It's of knowledge, of light, of wisdom, all of that, right? But you don't just need all of that. See, because you got to overcome you're in the 8. The 8 is a fight going on in there, right? So Arimanes, the firstborn of time without limits, began creating after his likeness and after his image and likeness, right? They always say that he created after their image and likeness. He created 6 genii called Upanishads, right? Right, look, they're called Amsharpans. Amsharpans, right? That surround his throne, right? And are messengers to the inferior spirits and to men. So there's a hierarchy going on here, outside of the physical sphere, right? Inferior spirits and to men, being also to the latter types of purity and perfection. The second series of creations by Arimanes was that of the 28 Izads that watch over the happiness, innocence and preservation of the world, models of virtue, interpreters of the prayer, right? Let's turn this up so I can see it. Interpreters of the prayers of men. The third host of pure spirits is more numerous and forms that of the Farahas, right? The thoughts of Arimanes, or the ideas conceived by him before proceeding to the creation of things. Not only the Farahas of the holy men, the innocent infants stand before the Arimanes, but this latter himself has his Farahas, right? Basically, the personification of his wisdom and his beneficent idea, his reason, his logic. These spirits hover over the heads of every man And this idea passed over to the Greeks and the Romans, and we meet with it again in the familiar spirits of Socrates, the evil genius of Brutus, and the genius comes from Horace. Right, the threefold creation of good spirits was the necessary consequence of the contemporaneous development of the principle of evil. The second born of the eternal Arimanes emanated like Arimanes from the primitive light, and was pure like it. But being ambitious and haughty, he became jealous. To punish him, the supreme being, which is the Zervan, right, condemned him to dwell for 12,000 years, which is inside of this 12,000 years in the region of darkness, a time which was to be sufficient to end the strife between good and evil. So we're in the middle of a battle here, right? And that battle is actually taking place within our field, and that's why they said now they become like gods to know good and evil, right? Yeah. So, and when we through the sex, when we embark upon the practice of that sex, yeah, we are introduced. We open Pandora's box, and we are introduced to these denser expressions within our emotional field that are stemming from the greater field that we are encompassed within, right? So it then says, but Arimanes created countless evil genii that filled the earth with misery, disease, guilt. The evil spirits are impurity, violence, covetousness, cruelty, the demons of cold, hunger, poverty, lenience, steadiness, ignorance, and the most perverse of all, right? And the most perverse of all, Pitash, the demons of calumny, right? So Arimanes, after a reign of 3,000 years, created the material world in 6 periods, in the same order as they are found in Genesis, right? Successively calling into existence the terrestrial light, not to be confounded with the celestial, the water, the earth, plants, animals, and man. Arimanes assisted in the formation of earth and water, right? Because the darkness had already invaded those elements, and Arimanes could not conceal them, right? Could not conceal them. Now, I'm just going to go and quickly grab that what I wanted to show you. It's going to take me literally a second to do that. So it then goes on to say, right, this force, evil force at that, right, created, had a part to play in the creation of this place. Yeah, you can't have the one without the other. The two have to be intertwined to create it, right? So that's why you are in this, we're in this reality, and there's nothing but evil going on all over the place, because it has to come forth, and it has to incarnate here. It has to be brought forth here. It has to be overcome. There's nothing you can do about it. That's why Jesus was caught in the garden, like it says in the text, with the little boy, who was traffic, human trafficking. Right. So it says, out of the seed of that being, Arimanes afterwards drew the first human pair, Messiah, and yeah, and Meshain, yeah, Meshain. But Arimanes, yeah, first seduced the woman, always seduced the woman, right, and then the man, leading them into evil chiefly by eating of certain fruits, yeah, which we know to be the ways in which that man, the way that we have sex, right? So I just want to show you this, right? Because this never gets seen. No, nobody would have they wouldn't have really noticed this. That what you've got here is you have, and it's been said as well, that you see these 12 here. These 12, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They were boys. They were boys. But in the center is the 13th. It's the 13. which is Di, which is Dionysus, which is the devil, because God and the devil is the same thing. Because with Dionysus, which was the blood drinking, yeah, which is, and what they were, so what these beings were showing at that Olympics when they did this Bacchanalia thing, yeah, is he's showing that is the theme of what they've been dealing with here all this time. And I think the first theatre where that took place was in 405, the year 405, which is 9, right? Year 405. Another phenomena, so that Jesus there, I always say is the 13th. There it is there, it's right there on the board. It's the 13th, standing in the centre, right? Letting you know, right? The 13th, which is death, is key. You have to die here. So Jesus couldn't be here without being evil as well. Because Jesus, the devil, is the same thing. It's the same thing. He's telling you that you are the devil as well, because he created you. Because the God and the devil, they are one and the same, right? And it's only when we come out of this that true brilliance is found. But we are able to find it here. Like, so on the trees here, you see, you probably won't be able to see them in it, right? The oranges are there now. They're like this. Some of them are this big, some of that, and they're green, right? So now at this time of year, the field strength is so strong that I know that the emotional field of these trees they're in an ecstatic, orgasmic state. So with the Dionysian mysteries, they are trying to experience that, knowing that they are trapped within this vest, within this suit, within this matrix avatar suit, right? They know that, right? And they know that the experiencing the ecstasy, it comes from this mulla prakriti, right? This orgasmic force, this Christonic semen, because Christ is not Jesus, right? So that then brings us, that then will take us, and that's why again the 9 is just so key, because even the video I played at the start, and at the back of that, the guy that did the first record deal, Sold His Soul, he died at 27. So we know people go, oh, maybe it wasn't really, he was signing a deal with the devil. Crossroads, at the crossroads, yeah, which is where you find Papa Lekba at the crossroads, right? Taking you from the physical plane into the spiritual plane, which is the Daikenga, DI, which is 49, which they didn't get to cover. The Daikenga, which I believe the Daikenga was probably the Daikenga, which was here, all the way down here on the board, as the Daikenga, right? So just wanted to look at, and I'll just quickly play this. We'll do a little bit of shadow work right now. I'll play a couple of these. There's a psychopath and a sociopath. I wanted to quickly see them.
He hit his head flat on the ground, face first, and I thought I killed him. And then the next morning they told me that he was in a coma, and he also had a brain hemorrhage. So this was my second GBH, my second brain hemorrhage on my file. So of course I was sent straight to prison.
Do you ever think about that with guilt or feelings of remorse?
I really want to get to the point in my life now where I can say yes to that, but I also don't want to lie. I want to try and I'm going to try and really think about it, because usually when you ask me that, like I get asked that question, my default was no, because I just think and I just tell my story and I'm not going there. But I've done a lot of work with myself in Bali recently, and I'm really trying to. So I'm going to really see if I can get there. No, I don't. No, it's still not there. I don't even know what that feels like. I really don't feel any emotion at all. I don't feel any happiness or joy or fulfillment. The only things I really get are stimulation, more sensation based stimulatory things that give you adrenaline. So that's why I used to use drugs, because it makes you, you feel something. So I used to like to have lots of sex when I was younger because, well, I still do, but at the time, because, you know, you can feel that. That's why I like to work and become successful, because I can feel the level of power and stimulation, and my mind is being, stimulated. So those are the things that I can feel, and I can associate certain emotions to more brain levels of understanding. So, for example, for me, love doesn't feel like love. I don't have this warm, fuzzy connection that people explain, and I have an understanding of being significant to somebody, and they have to show me that. I can't feel it. So yeah, on a day-to-day, I feel near enough nothing. I'm almost flat most of the time, which is why I have to ensure that I'm doing a lot with my life to make it, feel significant enough. Otherwise, I would probably slip into feeling probably even, I don't know. I don't even get depression or sadness either. Really, it's just a flatness, which can be quite uncomfortable, because I want to feel, I want to love, I want to be loved. Like, I've craved that my whole life, and I've kind of battled whether or not I'm able to feel and receive and give. I'd love to be able to experience a full range of emotion. I'm even happy to experience the pain and the darkness, the fear, although I don't like a lot of those, because I see them as huge restraints that have been massively beneficial for me to not have, because the huge advantage of this emotional shutdown is I don't really fear. I don't worry about risks. I don't really care about other people's opinions. I don't have any self-doubt or lack of confidence or these emotional burdens that paralyze people from doing the things they want to do.
What is the difference between a sociopath, a psychopath, and a narcissist? Here to answer this intense question is Dr. Ramani. Help us out here.
Well, it's, again, there's a lot of overlap, but the fact is a lot of people are using these terms interchangeably.
And should they be?
Sociopath, they psychopath. No, they shouldn't. They're different things, okay? One rule of thumb to remember right off the bat: every psychopath is narcissistic, but not every narcissist is psychopathic.
This I couldn't agree more with. Absolutely every single sociopath and psychopath is a narcissist, but the reverse is not necessarily true. This is a very important distinction to make.
Makes sense? There's your key difference. A narcissist is somebody who lacks empathy, is grandiose, is entitled, is constantly seeking validation, is arrogant. It's a disorder of self-esteem, and they have trouble regulating their self-esteem.
So I do know that narcissists lack empathy, but from what I've seen, narcissists tend to have a lot more empathy than sociopaths and psychopaths. I don't know if this is just what I've experienced, but honestly, they do have a little bit of empathy. They do.
The bad thing, they feel a fair amount of guilt and shame. More shame than guilt, frankly, because they're concerned about how other people view them. Shame is a public emotion, so they don't like being viewed.
Narcissists love being in complete control of their entire image. So absolutely, they do not want to be seen as doing something bad by the public. Inside, they don't care. They don't feel anything inside when they're doing something bad to someone else. But if it's bringing shame upon them, they're going to be crying for a week.
Negatively in the public eye or by other people, that's where the shame comes from. But they'll feel a little bad. Like if they cheat on their wife, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Psychopath's a different animal. They're all of those things except no guilt, no shame. Wow. They don't feel remorse when they do something bad.
Wow.
So they're great serial killers. Hired assassins, people who are going to go in and literally sort of gut a business. These are your guys. They're like, I don't care who gets hurt. They'd say that and they'd mean it.
This is so accurate. I mean, sociopaths and psychopaths, they have absolutely no remorse, no guilt when they're doing something terrible. I know this because I do terrible things all the time and I literally feel nothing. I actually did talk about wanting to gut the business that my father used to work for, because they did fire him after he worked for them for 20 years having brain cancer. I would gut them from the inside out. That may be because of rage, but I feel like that would be a lot of fun. When I say I don't care about hurting people, I genuinely do not care when I hurt people.
Okay, where a narcissist is like, I hope no one gets hurt. Okay? The difference between the psychopath and the sociopath is the one where most people get confused, because the sociopath is a lot like the psychopath. They do bad things and they don't care. Okay? Here's the key difference. A psychopath is born and a sociopath is made.
I keep telling everybody this. A psychopath is born, a sociopath is made. While I do believe that I have genetic imprints which do make me more likely to become a sociopath, I have had the environment that had really brought it out. Just saying.
Okay, that's the key. So a psychopath, in fact, we know in the research on psychopathy, which has also been called antisocial person.
For all of you who've been bitching about me using the word sociopath instead of ASPD, she's a psychotherapist and she's using them. I told you there is a difference and we need to use those terms, and I'll continue using those terms. Just saying.
Diagnostic manual. These are people who are actually believed to have slightly different autonomic nervous systems. Our autonomic nervous system is actually that part that holds our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight and flight system. So when our autonomic nervous system for a normal person gets charged up, which it would if we broke a rule, if we did something embarrassing or rude, if we ran through a red light, our heart starts racing. We sweat, our pupils.
My heart does not go up even if I'm crossing the street and I almost get hit by a car. This is why I do think I could easily pass a lie detector test. I know exactly what you're going through, and I think that's sufficient. I don't need to take on your burdens. By society standards, I may be an evil person. I don't do things the right way, and I don't necessarily care about a lot of people. What I do care about are those close to me. But everyone else, if they get in my way, I will take them out. And I don't care what society has to say about that. I don't necessarily trust these super empaths, because empaths have very selective empathy, and dark empaths can use empathy against you in a number of ways, particularly those of you they don't like as much. I have seen people crying on the street. It does nothing to me. I feel absolutely nothing. And I'm not sure if you do. I don't know if that's a normal thing. It just doesn't concern me. It's not my problem. I do my fair share of philanthropy, and not because society tells me to. I have a certain range of causes that I genuinely care about, including the rights of women and shelters for those who have experienced SA and DV. So I will donate to those charities, but random homeless people, I don't really give a shit about. On a scale of 1 to Patrick Bateman, I'm probably a 7. I don't mean the scene where he murders the homeless person. Guilt is a control. I don't mean the scene where he murders the homeless person. Guilt is a control mechanism set up by society to punish you for doing things that benefit yourself. I think it's a very toxic and unnecessary emotion. I don't feel guilt. I have never felt guilt once in my life for anything that I've done. It is a foreign experience to me. But the way that other people explain it to me, why would you want to feel that? Why would anyone think this is a healthy emotion that they should be feeling? Maybe you guys can explain it to me in the comments, because I just don't get it. I don't need guilt to force me into being kind. Guilt doesn't hold me back from backstabbing people I need to in order to climb the corporate ladder. This gives me a benefit in life that other people do not have. It is an advantage. You may not see it that way. The one thing I don't really talk about a lot is that I have very dark thoughts. I have had dark thoughts since I was a child, and I didn't actually understand that people did not have the same thoughts. I don't know if this is caused by ASPD, but these are very intrusive thoughts. And thankfully, I don't indulge them, because that would be really bad for society. Let me just tell you that. Maybe then I would be Patrick Bateman. And I'm also prone to violence and manipulation. Of course, I am a small woman. I can't really take on huge physical fight, but I can psychologically manipulate and destroy someone if I set to do so. But this is not a regular occurrence, and this is only done when absolutely necessary. Here's the thing that people find the weirdest. I don't have empathy for myself either. I don't have empathy for my future self or my past self. What's happened in the past is gone. It doesn't exist to me. What is coming up in the future also doesn't concern me. And this is why I don't have anxiety. It doesn't mean that I can't think about the future. It just means I don't attach any emotions to it. Remorse is an emotion that I also think is entirely useless and provides no substance to society. Once something has been done, it's not going to be undone because you feel bad about it, because you think your remorse is overwhelming. Now, when I think of things that I've done, I know that they weren't necessarily good things and that I should have made better decisions, but what's happened is in the past. I don't think about the past. I don't care about the past. I have no emotions that link me back to that memory. So remorse is something that does not affect me at all. And I see what people experience when they buy something that they shouldn't have, or they go out and cheat on their partner and they realize, oh, that was probably a bad decision. Yeah, it was a bad decision, but what are you going to do about it? You're going to dwell about it? Is that going to help you? Is that going to help anybody? Absolutely not. What is the point of this? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to tell me if you agree or disagree with me. But I think not having empathy, guilt, and remorse has led me to become a very successful person in life. I have achieved things that I would have never achieved if I was worrying about the cause I had on other people. I wouldn't have taken risks that were so wild, but I achieved incredible outcomes.
So you've seen there, the sociopath, the lady, the psychopath was the guy, and they both of them, they cannot feel, and we know that this place is riddled with traits of sociopathy, psychopathy, and narcissism. And that other little clip that I played with the women just then at the end, when he, because that's going into the next part of the video with the woman, where he says there's a book, the Luciferians, as the theme of this video, right? The Luciferians, right? Yeah, who are women, right? They hate men, and it is coming from, it's generational, it's coming from ancient times, right? From way back, right? And they want to destroy the other polarity within. So when the modern woman you see there, this is what I was on about, consequentialism. And it happens in our truth movement community as well. We think, oh, it doesn't matter if these people are doing what they're doing because we're not thinking about that. We're thinking about flat earth or something else. We don't realize that the beast, right? They don't care about you think about flat earth and stuff like that, because they are destroying, while you're worrying about flat earth and stuff like that, what they are doing is destroying the dynamics between man and woman, which we don't realize is a part of the soul expression of this game that we are down here to play. We don't realize that. We don't get that. And that's why you're seeing the expression there of the woman. And they were saying that they don't care. Right? She's saying, why does she care that other the women are working of ways of how they can destroy the man? Because she's not doing that, and she's not experiencing that. And this is the issue. It's the way we think that is the cause of our suffering, not other things. Like some people look and go, oh, instead of listening to what the words coming out of my mouth, they might look and go, oh, look, Fabian's his hair's bald in here. Even that's been happening since 2012. Right, something I'm working to result. I'm having to work upon that. Hasn't started happening whilst I've been doing my alchemical work. It was already happening before that, right? So don't look at this and go, maybe Fabian doesn't know what he's talking about because his hair is growing away from here. Maybe that really means he's eating meat, and maybe he doesn't really do urine therapy anymore. I think Fabian's a liar because you see that shit, right? That's the shit that happens. Right, and it's that stuff, like, it's a kind of gossip type, it's projection, yeah, taking us away from the truth, always misinterpreting what is going on and making up our own version of reality, yeah. When I'm really always here doing the work, I'm always going to be here. If you was to be with me, in some ways, you might not like it, because I'm going to be very disciplined in what I'm doing, yeah. I never eat no cooked food ever before any daylight. I don't really do that. I'm never going to do that, right? I work with magic. This is it. Whatever else. And I say what I do because I'm doing the work, and I want to be able to be a figure to show I am practicing what I'm preaching in the physical sphere. It's for others to lead and to follow that. That's what you should be following. Not following someone because you like how they're doing their truth and the things they're saying, because they're stroking your ego and they're feeding into the fact that you want to escape really from this evil reality, because that's what's really happening. Yeah, because that doesn't allow us to get out of the mess that we're actually in. So one of the other things I was going to say, right, people who seemed old in the 90s, they're still here now. They're still looking old, right? In that time cycle, old persona was expressed of a dental cycle every 10 years. So the people I look back now, being like nearly 45 or whatever it is, 43, 44, right? And those people they used to look old when I was growing up. But now I look at them now, I've seen the people, that person still looks old. Like you see them on YouTube or something, and they still look old now. But they looked old then. But they still look old now, even though now 25 years has passed, and they must have been younger then. Like you look at someone who was a prime minister or something, president of a country or something, and you look and go, that guy looked like Trump. He looks old anyway. Then the guy was my age, he looked like he was 90, 80 or something, right? He looks still 80 or 90 now anyway to me. That's how these people, they're not the same as us, because they're not consuming of the light, right? Right? These are things, right? The ruffians, which is what you're seeing in England and country now, I told you it's going to go down like that. The reason we have to be policed, not because of, it's just the people, they are evil. The people themselves are evil. In actual fact, I'm going to play this now. Satanists. This is what I mean about ignorance. Look what we think about Satanism and stuff like that. I'm going to play one of the leaders of the Satanic Church, the Satanists themselves, right? Right. Don't even make me even say it, right? These people, we don't work with ignorance. We work with the shadow enables us to see the things that others can't see. Watch the lady. Her name is Blanche, right? She was the second in command of the Church of Satan all these years with the Anton LaVey. Who you think, the Satanists killing kids, eating babies. Look what she says.
I feel that's one of the revolutions of Satanism, is the fact that he understood that there's an interaction. It's like we're learning about the way the earth works. We can't isolate a system out. We're all interrelated and interconnected. The forests and the animals and the humans, and we all evolved together. So we're all so intimately interconnected. And the fact that so many people, so many times, scientists or spiritualists try to break down and parse out and take away the material from the spiritual, or as I like to think of it, sort of this metaphorical poetic part of our brains. And they can't be separated out. That was what he saw, is it's an integration. He reconciled the irreconcilable. You can do it consciously, though. That's the point of Satanism, is that you start from a rational perspective, and then you allow yourself to be engaged fictionally or poetically as well. And that unlocks power within yourself. It's not demons or forces outside yourself. We have a reserve of this momentous energy within us. And we have ways of tapping into that energy that's generated. I know I'm talking about the force, but the reason they talk about the force is because we have matured enough to understand a little bit about how the earth energies work and how we can tap into them within ourselves and project them outward for our own gain, for our own clarity, for our own wisdom. And he was the one who really said, you're missing out on a big part of what being a human is if you don't practice magic, if you don't see these perspectives. And a lot of it's basic psychology or psychiatry, reshaping your world from the inside out, but you can only do that by true reflection, intense vision, and risk. And that's where the darkness comes from. Is Satanism encourages and recognizes us as very dark animals, and you cannot get to what we really are as humans, as animals, unless you're willing to look the demons in the face, see who we are as individuals and as a race, and, work with that. You can't just say, oh, we're all, sunshine and rainbows and we're all lightness and anything other is dark. It's evil. There's no sense in that. There's no logic or reason in that. You can't just other everything, because we're all interconnected.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it. And by ignoring it or pretending otherwise, not pretending we're different than we are, you just end up like splitting these things off and creating more problems than we need to have.
Right? Precisely. Yeah, exactly. So I'm enthused that I hope that people can pick up the book. Of course, I'm very pleased that Satanists, that our members are excited, because that's who I wrote the book for, because I want to speak to them and thank them for practicing the religion as Anton LaVey conceived of it, and how he practiced it himself, so that they can live a richer and more fulfilling life. That's, this is your party. Essentially, this is your party, and we don't know what happens afterwards. We don't know what happened before, if there is any before or after. This is what we get. And if you're not having fun, whose fault is that? You're the one. You're driving the bus.
Called How to Destroy a Man Now. Right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to read, because we were talking about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing, right? So you can find this book on Amazon. As a matter of fact, you can find this book on Amazon. We can all go now and put How to Destroy a Man Now, right?
Now, not later.
No, now. So this is the synopsis of the book, right? How to Destroy a Man's Reputation and remove him from power for misconduct. This handbook by Dr. Angela Confidential tells you how. In How to Destroy a Man, business psychologist Angela Confidential empowers women with a step-by-step guide for ruining a man's reputation and removing him from positions of power. In easy-to-understand terms, the handbook reveals and explains the fundamental dynamics between allegations, the media, and authority as they relate to male misconduct in today's society. It also unveils the details, practical real-world methods for leveraging allegations, media, and authorities to dethrone a man. Angela Confidential has a doctorate in psychology and is an accomplished consultant and human resource professional. She brings a valuable blend of expertise, experience, and practical advice in the area of social science, thinking, and behavior, and allegations of male misconduct in the workplace and other contexts. There's a book now on how to destroy men.
Respectfully, as soon as you said How to Destroy Men, I switched off.
Yeah.
But the fact that book can exist.
It's true.
Yeah, I feel like she worded that really badly, though. Because if
she's a psychologist.
If she's a psychologist, why would she be teaching girls how to destroy men?
Well, you just see it with Amber Heard. That's what we're just talking about.
Yeah, but she didn't come out with a book, did she?
No, but you don't have to. Amber Heard may have read that book. I don't know.
Did you say it just came out?
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't. All right, sorry.
Yeah, waffle.
I just got the book. I don't know if it just came out. But the book is there, but it exists. The fact that it exists doesn't
realistically, why would any girl buy a book on how to destroy a man? How sad can you be? Yeah,
you must be.
I think it's a very extreme
It's
case.
extreme,
I don't think many people are going to be wanting. It exists, and it's not a good thing. It exists, but I don't think many people are going to be buying actively reading it.
So you don't think? Do you think the Amber Heard case is a singular case? Do you think that it's a unique case, or do you think that happens all the time?
I think you're happen. Radical feminists exist. There are women out there who hate all men. There are women out there who kill all men. That doesn't mean everyone's like that. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying it. We're talking about toxic feminism. I'm not saying all women are toxic feminists, but I'm saying the fact that it exists, and the fact that the Amber Heard case can exist, and the fact that a book can actually be published to show that How to Destroy a Man shows that toxic feminism is alive and well in society, and we don't know as men. We don't know what woman is adhering to these type of ideologies.
Well, until you read the book, surely you can't make a judgment on it.
No, the synopsis tells you exactly what the book is. It's a handbook.
Yeah, but it's not going to tell you the whole book.
As to how to destroy a man.
Well, read the book.
Well, I haven't read the book, but the fact that the book exists as to how to destroy a man, it exists.
Well, also, they put that title in there to like entice people to buy it. It's like clickbait, but for books. Like, obviously, it's not going to be... You're not obviously going to destroy a man, surely. If she's a psychologist, she's not going to be encouraging that.
No, well, that's what the book is about. You mean that's not what she's going to be doing? That's exactly what she wrote. That's exactly what Amber Heard's doing.
Doesn't mean she read the book.
No, I'm not saying she did read the book. I'm saying the behavior exists. The behavior of women destroying men exists in society.
I don't get it, though. Personally, it's not me, so that's why I'm disagreeing.
No, you're entitled to disagree, but I'm saying the way in which you're disagreeing is very interesting.
How so?
Because it sounds like you're dismissing the fact that there are women out there that are actually out to destroy men.
I feel like, oh yeah, there obviously are.
Right.
But at the same time, it makes the people like good females.
So you're a good girl?
Don't say it like that, man.
No, I'm just asking, are you a good girl?
I'm a nice person, like, I'm not going to do that. So it makes me shocked to know that there's women out there that actually do that. Because then it makes all the good females look bad. Because you're just assuming shit.
Who's assuming?
Not you, but like men.
Just men are assuming. So the fact that the book exists, like I said, and the fact that the Amber Heard case can exist, and the fact that there have been many men within history that have been brought down by sex allegations, etc., says to me that the prevalence of this type of behavior is it's increasing. Wouldn't you say? When you say toxic feminism is increasing?
Well, I don't personally know because I don't do it, so I don't know. So I don't know.
Do you not live in this world?
I live in this world, but I also don't care what other people are doing with their
You only care what you're doing?
Well, you're here for yourself, are you not?
Right. But I'm saying, do you not live in the world in which we are?
I don't get consumed by it. It's just nonsense.
So you don't know any woman that's manipulated things to
personally, but Amber Heard, yeah. I know there's women out there that do that, but I just don't relate to it because I don't do it. So I don't get it.
Influential book, The Feminine Mystique. Betty was one of the key figures in what is sometimes called the second wave of the women's movement. This week we'll be looking at another important individual in that same wave, and that is Kate Millett. When we talk about the second wave, the time period that we are primarily discussing is that of the 1960s and the 1970s. In the 5th chapter of her book titled The End of Woman, scholar Carrie Gress mentions a meeting that took place in the late 1960s. The location was Lila Karp's apartment. The attendees were 12 women. As they sat around a large table, they repeated this chant. Why are we here today? To make revolution. What kind of revolution? The cultural revolution. And how do we make cultural revolution? By destroying the American family. How do we destroy the family? By destroying the American patriarch. And how do we destroy the American patriarch? By taking away his power. How do we do that? By destroying monogamy. How can we destroy monogamy? By promoting promiscuity, eroticism, prostitution, prenatal infanticide, and man, male, woman, female erotic unions. The practices of that last line were in no way, shape, or form emblematic of American society at that time. Yet today, in perhaps at least 50% of the United States demographic, it is an accurate description of the behaviors. And maybe one of the single largest influencers in making those sinful actions mainstream was Kate Millett. Born to a father who was an engineer and a mother who was a teacher and insurance saleswoman, Kate Millett had a conservative Catholic upbringing. Her father, who was also a drinker, left when Kate was 14 years old, leaving her mom to care for 3 daughters. Millett was highly intelligent, graduating from the University of Minnesota with a degree in English.
You see there, That's the dire situation that we are actually in. That there are people like the Satanists themselves. All right, they see themselves as more like an animal, right, so to speak. But they know they work with what they call a lesser magic, psychological magic. They work with magic. The guy Anton LaVey cast a spell on Jane Mansfield in 1967. 13 again. I think the guy died at 76. Right, yeah. Cast a spell and she died in 1967. Right, after going to his house. I think it messed with the skull or something. There's another guy, I tell you about these materialists, who I meant to put a video of him in the last one. I may even have to do another one in this series because I'm not going to fit it all in. The guy who's this other guy, he's like a model, a clothes fashion designer, yeah, operating with this Ahrimanic force, this Satanist force, and he has the skull on his table. And you look what he says about it. I'm going to quickly play that as well, actually.
I know that I wanted to live in stone. I've always been impressed by the skulls in Italian churches. This skull I got from a medical school auction years ago, and I use it as a memento mori, as a reminder that all is vanity, that one day my skull is going to be on somebody else's desk. So seize the day, seize the moment. The pistols are from my father's collection. He was a very conservative, kind of stridently moralist who I had a difficult relationship with. We used to be horrified, Mom and me, about having guns around the house, but now they are an affectionate reminder of him. And I like...
So you see how they operate with material and death, right? And stuff that's old. The lady was telling you that they work upon this self so that they know the nature of the human being. Now these people, writers, they write movies, they write, the guy himself was into entertainment because music and carnival is of this force. But to them, the devil to them, obviously it's just an archetype of what they are, but really it isn't a force. It's just this Ahrimanic force that I'm teaching people about. It's an expression of the field of magnetism, right? And that field of magnetism, right, I'm going to read it off right now. I'll put it in and read it off, and then we'll close off. I'm going to put that in.
That intermediate psychological field of soul, which lies between the spirit above and the material below us. The soul can direct its energies to either of these poles, becoming illuminated or darkened, spiritualized or sensualized, according to its dominant tendencies. The open lodge exhibits the mind in its various aspects of intuition, reason, and will, the emotions, and the sense tendencies, as all forming a community of so many brethren, who must not only learn to dwell together in unity, but also to work together for their common good, namely, the regeneration of the whole organism. These different components are shown in the lodge as separate entities, occupying various appropriate places, according to their corresponding functions in the soul. Some rule as officers, others obey and learn. Some are active, others passive in their duties. Some are fixed and stationary in their places, others mobile. For in the constitution of the soul there are permanent elements and transitory features. The lodge, to be perfect, has 7 primary officers. These personify, broadly, the sevenfold structure of the soul, which, following the septenary principle in nature, is like a ray of light or a musical sound, prismatically resolved into a scale of 7 sub-modes. There are also 7 secondary officers. These personify not the structure, but the activities of a soul that has become well organized by working upon itself and living in conformity with the craft discipline. They are, as it were, overtones of the soul, the fruits of its spirit, the energies and good works that it throws off. To each of these two groups of 7 must be added the IPM. He is the culmination of each of them, the octave in which they are all summed up. Assistance is therefore 15. That number is important and recurs many times in the course of craft teaching, but cannot be dealt with now. Every office in the lodge is duplicated or has its complementary. There are 2 wardens, 2 deacons, 2 doorkeepers, while the other officers form pairs or counterparts. The reason is that the soul, as figured by the lodge, is a field of interplay between the spiritual and the material in man, and its powers are therefore double, acting upwards or downwards, actively or passively, as the will directs them.
They said we were called at 11:36 on Monday the 12th of August, today, to reports of a stabbing at Leicester Square. We said
are a woman and a girl, and it happened, well, at 11:36 in the morning. I remember sitting here at this desk 2 weeks ago when the Southport stabbings happened. That was at 11:56, if I remember correctly. Again, broad daylight. Is this a new phenomenon in Britain?
So you see, at the start of this video here, this part, you've seen where we was playing the cyclical, what I term the cyclical timeline phenomena, right? Now it doesn't matter whether it's to us, whether we perceive it to be something that's positive or whether we perceive it to be something that's negative. It's just going to play out. It doesn't do positive or negative, really, yeah, because the positive and negative is just what we perceive it to be, because in actual fact what we're going to see right now, what we perceive to be positive is actually really negative, and what we perceive to be negative is actually really positive. And that's why when we have certain scenarios that we see in this place since 2020, you'll always may have seen, if you're online, you may have seen me saying things like, we're happy that this scenario is taking place. When I'm now singing and dancing because these things are actually happening, because what we perceive to be negative is actually really positive. So the timeline phenomena, every 10 years, the time that we are experiencing, it recycles itself, it ends, and it starts again, right? Now, the sorcerers know this. So what the sorcerers do, they work with what we call dichotomy, right? They work with a dichotomy because they understand the workings of the actual true workings of the auric, toroidal, magneto dielectric field, right? They understand that, and that is the reason why, like we were looking at earlier, they have what they call the fire of temptation, right? Where what they actually do really is the anal intercourse with the young boys, etc. Because the boys, the masculine, they're active within their essence, right? So they're holding on to an active force. So that's why, right? That brings me back to the workings of the field. So the external we are the external dielectric field, right? That we are interacting with on this plane of inertia, right? Where we are right now, yeah. We are directly affected by the field, the expression of the field, right? Now at this, the cycles that we're in now, yeah. But you see, the Greeks call the aeon, right? The ionic, the cycles that we're in now, right? In this particular cycles, they are more towards the Ahrimanic, which is the positive expression of the field, right? Which we also then perceive to be, we perceive it as materialism, right? Comes out to us as materialism, right? So you just have to excuse that think certain little things like will come up on the screen just because I'm recording this way. I'm not going to stop now because it's too important, right? So that's we experience it in this way. So as we continue to move forward, it's becoming more and more towards those material, unconscious, these aspects, right? Now, the reason I say unconscious is because the beings here are operating, and they have been. So the ones that have been born in the 50s, and the 60s, etc., the baby boomers, a lot of those are narcissistic, right? But they wouldn't have known that because they're so heavily dense down in the positive expression of the field, right? Which we're going to look at right now, because I'm going to now go through real scientific biological experimentation using magnetism, right, upon mammals and humans, right, to show exactly how this works. So it's not me saying that this is how it is. I'm using in-depth forms of syncretism and so on and so forth in order to come to this, in order to bring this forward within what I've been put on the board as what we perceive as an 8, this hourglass, right? So that's why here, 2001, you had that scenario, right? 9/11, and the video I played at the beginning of this, they said the characters in the movie and the movie mirror, they said that it was a phenomenon that was taking place, and it was taking place with these events were happening on 9/11 at 11:36. If you go through, you'll see that, and that's why you had this event in 2001, 9/11, because they know that at the end of each 10-year cycle, it resets and starts again. So what they do is they set the theme, and that's why in 2020 I was talking about what the next movie script will be, and we're halfway through it now, and that's why 2025 is going to be so key. But it's moving into a more denser matter plane, right, for those beings. But it doesn't work like that when we become conscious, because now we are actually we are now we are fully aware of the whole dimensions of the field that we are actually experiencing, each individual toroidal field. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into that, right? So it says here, right, we'll go through enough so that we can grasp exactly what's going on here, right? The increase of important proteins, sugars, oils found after plant seed development while seeds are exposed. This is while seeds are exposed to South Pole magnetic energies. Laboratory analysis revealed the following. When exposed to S-pole energies, the seed plant development to the end, vegetable, fruit, root plants, sugar, etc., so on and so forth, right? What actually happened was, right, as a result from the positive energies exposed to the fields, the S-pole energies tended to show a rise in temperature. Oxygen was liberated over normal amounts. Intake of carbon dioxide was increased. Everything is becoming increased because this particular force within the field, which is the force that grows matter. It grows matter, right? So what it's doing is expanding everything, right? The sugar, the beets, it's expanding their growth. It's speeding their growth up. But look, the opposite result occurred when the end-pole energies were used to treat the seeds. When the end-pole energies were used to treat the seeds, then they contracted now. They contracted, right? So then I'm just gonna skate through all this. I'm not gonna go directly into it, right? So here, we've got that. Then when we go to the next page, right, it will then go on to say the same thing. So this group was completely different from the controlled group, which were active, scratched for their food, right, and drunk less water than either of the treated types. Their growth was larger in all respect than the North Pole group, right, the End Pole group, and far less in growth development than the S Pole group. So the End Pole group, they didn't grow to the same degree as the S. This is how we have giants and stuff. This is what I'm saying, how the field contraction expands and changes the environment that we are living in. It changes the dynamics of the human beings and everything else that are interacting on the physical plane. So that's how this is. If you take a screenshot, you can go and read that. Then if you continue here, so this is now, if we talk about sex, sex is key. But on this side, it will then say, before we do that, on the left-hand side, it says here, look, the S-pole treated mice and rats kept their cages, nests and huts in a very dirty state. They did not seem to be concerned about sleeping in their own mire and filth, right? The N-pole mice and rats were very neat housekeepers and often took a great deal of time washing and keeping themselves and their cages clean, including their nests and huts. On the other hand, the S-pole mice and rats were always stained. They were always stained, dirty, and careless. Now, being careless, this is so a lot of the beings that are here, they're operating in this lower pole, right? They're operating in this matter pole, right? Where they are more careless, more boisterous, and they'll just put anything into their bodies. So their bodies and the temples are unclean, right? Because of the workings of their not being able to control the workings of their own field, right? And also the external impulse that is incoming from this what which we term as an aromatic force, but if we were looking at it in forms of magnetism, right? It'd be the positive polarity, right? So then, when I continue, it then goes into the sex life and aging, right? So it says, the exposure of the rodents to the S-pole energies acted to inspire strength and vigor, and when applied to the sex organs, encouraged their overdevelopment, right? This was also later discovered in cats and dogs as well. The amount of sperm produced and the large percentage of resultant fertility were responsible in part for changing the rodent and animal in their inborn habits, right? Personalities, behavior, and encouragement of sexual activity and reproduction, right? Now, the Satanists, they encouraged freedom, sexual freedom. Not you just go and do it so that you can actually do what they will, right? But they are doing, but it's an active form. Remember, the first tenet that they have in their Satanism, which is the South Pole energy, right, is indulgence over abstinence. See, so you see it. So the result, if left unchecked of the condition of oversex stimulation, the oversexed stimulation was to shorten the lifespan of the rodents and animals, right? In our research of rodents and animals to arrest the oversex activities, it was found much could be done if the end pole energies were directed to the males, exposing the testicles, yeah, and the urethra with the end pole energies 1 hour a day for 3 days. This resulted in a noticeable downgrading of the number of sex acts that were performed in a definite period of time. When, I'm going to give you just more detail to this, when the end pole, the luciferic pole of wisdom and intelligence is applied to the, is expressed to the mammals and humans, the level of intelligence goes up, right? It then goes on to say, I found this bit you would wanted to show. So it then says, the S-pole treated mites and rats, kept their cages and so on and so forth. But it then goes on to say, on the other hand, the S-pole mite, we might have read this, on the other hand, the S-pole mice and rats, they were more dirty. So there's another part of this that I wanted to read, and it would show you that the end poles, they operate more like, when it's explaining it, it's explaining it more like someone who's more like a vegan or plant-based, should I say, like a plant-based individual, right? Which is in here somewhere. So it's basically everything that what I've just been saying. It's going to continue to go over that. The end pole rodents and animals also show an extension of life, but by different approaches, right? So the use of the end pole energies to extend life is quite different. During these end pole experiments, it was discovered that the extension of the lifespan was the slowing down as opposed to the strengthening of the rodents or animal systems. So through this applying of magnetic fields, they were able to extend and shorten life. The end pole will increase life, and the S pole will shorten life, because the S pole is at the active pole, right? And that's why the other well, it was coming from the video that I put at the beginning. Also, was it's from the I think it's called The Perfect Lodge of Masonry, right? And it's telling you what I've been teaching on this channel the whole time, right? It's telling you about the law of the 2, yeah, and it's giving you the law of the 8, which is the spirit and matter being, yeah. You vibrate towards one. You can vibrate towards the spirit, and the other can vibrate towards the senses of the body and become more carnal, right? So the soul has the ability to go down to the depths of sin and vibrate to the heights to the heights to the pleroma. It then says there is a similarity with these experiments in the proper of the wise of the weaker concerning the changes and effects in the rodents and animals that was a result of the application of the M-pole energies, right? It then says, the extension of life systems to live beyond their normal lifespan has received much discussion in scientific reviews, men and women advancing the development too. But all of this that you're seeing on here, this has been hidden. This knowledge, this work that was done here was suppressed, heavily suppressed. It then says, laboratory results indicate that the proper magnetic fields applied could aid man as they do the rodents and animals. The results also indicate the opposite effect with improper or opposed magnetic fields. Many diseases suffered by man, simulated in laboratory experiments with rodents and animals, were contained by applying magnetic fields. The possibility of strengthening the heart and mind of man and arresting illness and disease exists within the proper use of these external magnetic fields, right? So if I was to continue, we cut it off there, but in here it's going to talk about all sorts. So the M-pole, when the M-pole is applied, the level of intelligence, the level of cleanliness goes flying up. The need for over-sexual gratification is reduced. It has to be there because sex is vital, right? But it's be conducted in more towards the correct way, yeah? Not just the overindulgence. So this overindulgence that we see is coming from the field, because man became like the gods, and the field that we are residing within was split into two, along with the body of man and woman. So we'll see you. I think I may end up having to do another one of these, and we'll see you on the next one. Yeah, so we'll close it out at this now, because there's quite a bit that's gone into it. But the truth that's being put out on here is not what we are used to seeing on the day-to-day, because what's actually we're really dealing with is not actually the core of what we need to be dealing with. It's not reflective of the reality that you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And because we don't operate from the position of the psyche, we look unconsciously to be entertained. And that, if I go all the way through YouTube, I'm going to see a lot of just entertaining stuff. There is a lot of stuff on there because I've pulled some stuff and put it on, right? But this is where we need to be at. This is where we need to be at. And this is the work that needs to be done. Because what we are going to see now is this Ahrimanic force incoming in. So you need to be strong enough to be able to deal with it and to be able to know how to be centered within the self by actually working through your own darkness in order so that you can balance balance true light and true darkness, because there is false light and false darkness operating at the same time, all happening within the 8. So I may even have to do another one of these. But Diablo that you've seen, they showed you in that Olympic ceremony, Diablo, and they showed you the Luciferic force coming in and interacting with the Ahrimanic force. They know it, and that's what Diablo, the book Diablo, was about. It's about adultery, the partners, the one partner cheats on another through this force of sex force. And it's relying upon the fact that we are not aware of how things really work, the fact that we are not aware that really God is the devil, and really you are God, and really you are the devil.
And there is an array of traditions and practices used to establish communication or exchanges with him. It is said that if you need the devil for anything, you must collect 9 sticks that you find spinning on a body of water and, whilst naked, take them to a crossroad at midnight. There, make a fire with them, and the devil will appear. And when he does, offer him 2 eggs. If he accepts them, he will do anything you ask. And after he fulfills your wish, you must leave the location, and when you do, you will hear screaming, laughing, chanting, drumming, even gunshots, but you must not look back, because if you do, the devil will turn you to shreds. But the devil will not dare as much against old witches or hags. It is said that the only creature the devil fears is the hag, which is a term commonly used for a healing witch, wise woman, or sorceress in her old age. As opposed to Western interpretations of witches who are enslaved by the devil in some way, the hag in Romanian folklore has mythical qualities, and legends place her emergence in time immemorial. As one legend goes, once upon a time, when God was walking with Saint Peter on earth, he saw the devil arguing with an old woman. He immediately sent Peter to separate them and make peace, and he did as God instructed, But as soon as he left the two alone, they started arguing again. Once more, God sent him to separate them. And so Peter got angry and beheaded them both. As if he had done nothing wrong, he then returned to God, who asked how he separated them. And Peter told him that he cut off their heads, to which God demanded that he go back and restore them. Peter went and put the devil's head on the old woman's, and the old woman's, the devil's, because he could not tell the difference.